I'm Matt. This is Let's Talk Music, and I am here with David of the Sin Dogs. How we doing, sir?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
How's the weather out in the UK today?
Very cold.
Very
It's very
cold.
yeah. Some parts of Scotland have had some heavy snow. I think the majority of England have had some snow as well, pretty badly. But where I am in the west coast, towards Glasgow, we've actually been quite lucky, but it's still very cold.
Yeah, we're getting a little warmer. It's been in 40s, 50s. Uh, had a couple of 70-degree days in February, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
So we always say that Mother Nature is a bit off her rocker here in Ohio.
I'd love to come to Ohio, especially with that weather.
Yeah, you guys ever been over to the States to play?
No, we haven't. No, no. We'd love to come to the States. But just haven't had the opportunity yet. But hopefully that will happen.
Gotcha. So Zal Clemison is the singer, correct?
He was the original singer. He's no longer in the band. Basically, Zal and myself formed the band in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and originally it started by Zal contacting me. Obviously, many people know that he was the guitarist with the sensational Alex Harvey band,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a massive Alex Harvey band fan. So when I got the opportunity to work with him, I was made up, just one of my heroes. And he had some songs that he'd written and wanted my input to help kind of write them and structure them for an album. Originally, it was going to be an album. And the more the songs progressed, the two of us at the same time almost kind of went, this would sound great in a band situation. So I'm in an Alex Harvey tribute here called the Sensational Alex Harvey Experience, and we do quite a lot of gigs up and down the UK. And Zal had actually seen us playing live a few times and thought we were really good. So I suggested that band be his band for the Sin Dogs, and he came over from Cyprus where he was living at the time, and we battered out a few of the songs, and it just kind of gelled very, very quickly. And from there, we recorded our first EP, done a small mini tour of the UK, and then we worked on our first album, Volume One. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. It was getting bigger, big. The gigs were getting bigger. The fan base was starting to build, and but unfortunately, in 2019, the band split up. Zal wanted to do something different, so the band kind of folded, and I kind of thought, well, that's the end of that. But myself and the bass player, we felt that there was still quite a lot of interest in the band, so we thought we could try and carry it on. And we brought in some exceptional musicians, very experienced musicians, and we thought, right, let's give it a go. So at the moment, we're currently working on our second album, which will be with a new lineup, obviously, and we're going to release a 4-track EP, which will be out anytime. It should be out probably towards the end of April. The recording process is done, so we're just basically waiting on the master tracks coming back to us, and then that'll be released prior to Volume 2 coming out. So yeah, Zal's no longer involved, but obviously he was one of the founder members. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I was searching through all my emails, man, and I could not for the life of me find the press release. So I was digging up stuff off of the internet to, use for research, and I apologize that if I'm a
No,
little,
no.
just kind of winging it, but I tell you, man, the guitar work in Hungry Heart, freaking love that song.
Yeah.
Armageddon Day, Guns of God, all kick-ass songs. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you is like, I seen that you guys did a show in 2022, but really other than that, yeah,
Yeah.
there wasn't
The
nothing.
new like almost sort of formed. We kind of get back together just at the tail end of lockdown once everything started opening up again. Um, so when the time came for us to do a gig, we'd only had about 3 or 4 of our own brand new material to use,
Mm-hmm.
and ours was doing a gig in Glasgow, and they asked us to play at it. So what we had to do was play some of the songs from Volume 1 and a few of the new songs that we had already written. So it was quite a quick throw together kind of gig. But this year we've got 2 or 3 gigs in the pipeline so far. We're doing another big gig in Glasgow in July. We've also got there's one. It's quite a well-known venue here, the Dreadnought Rock, which is a kind of rock venue. A lot of good bands play there, so we're doing that, and then we're doing a festival towards the end of the year in November called the Winter Storm Festival. A lot of big names have played that festival. I believe Michael Schenker's playing this year as well. He's headlining the festival, and we're on a wee bit earlier than him. But yeah, there's it's a lot of calibre in that festival. So we're just basically trying to get the wheels back in motion with it now being a sort of different lineup, a different drummer, different sing. Well, obviously we've got a lead singer now and a guitarist, Andy McLaughlin, who is absolutely phenomenal. He plays in a band called Burnt Out Wreck, who I believe you've interviewed before.
Yes.
He's one of the guitarists with them as well, and he's just absolutely amazing. He's what I find he was. He's an incredibly talented guitarist. And Peter Scallon is the new singer who had a stint with, what was the band? It was the band that Bruce Dickinson was in before he joined Iron Maiden, Samson.
Okay, yeah.
He sang with them in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, and he's played with a few other bands as well. And the drummer is Todd McLeod, who plays with a band called Glasgow, Jimmy Anderson Group. So they're all kind of seasoned players, and they all kind of jumped at the chance to do this, which made me and Nelson's job a lot easier, because we thought it was going to be quite difficult to fill the void that Zal had left, because obviously Zal being a prolific musician and still is, to be fair. I mean, he's still an incredible guitarist and he's doing other things, but the lineup that we've got now it's brought the excitement back, and we're all kind of raring to go.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that was funny because I talked to Gary from Burnout Wreck, and
Yeah.
then it wasn't maybe two weeks later, I talked to Heavy Pettin.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So both very cool guys. Great bands. I remember some of Heavy Pettin from back in the 80s and 90s or 80s, but I was in 1980 I was what, 4? So 3.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, but I I mean this has been great, dude. I love talking to bands from all over. Earlier I just did an interview with a band out of Finland. Um,
Nice.
Good band. And it's fun, man. You really get a taste of the culture from everywhere. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I've done a band from India that was really interesting. Getting ready to talk to them again, and another band from India. But yeah, these guys are getting ready to release a new single and stuff. And I hit them up through Facebook because we're friends on there, and I was like, yeah, as soon as we're done with the shoot and everything, we'll talk. So you know.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you're doing that, because it's always good to hear new exciting bands. As a musician myself, I really enjoy discovering new music as well.
Mhm.
I out of that, so yeah, it's a great thing you're doing, man, and keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep an open mind. You know what I mean? It's not everything is the same as over here. You know what I mean? With just the basic R&B, hip hop, metal, death metal, whatever you want to call it, new metal. It varies from country to country, and I feel like that I'm very privileged to get to hear that and have these publicists work with me and send me these press releases. Like, I started out with like 4 or 5 publicists, and I'm telling you, man, I've been getting pounded from over in Europe. I mean, just all kinds of publicists, and I'm like, hey, I'm down for doing whatever. I'll talk to
Great.
anybody. I love music, and I love musicians. I feel like you guys have a gift from God. And you're able to take that gift and turn it into something awesome, and you get out there and you share it through your albums, through your singles, through your live shows, and it's I
Yeah,
couldn't think of a better way to put it, man. I mean, it's just magical.
great way to put it. It's, I mean, music for me on a personal level is a very big part of my life. I was brought up in a musical family, with my dad being a guitarist as well. A lot of my friends are musicians. Music's just always been there, and I've always been open minded in the styles of music that I'm involved in. I play in 3 or 4 different bands, and they all do different things. One band's kind of mainly funk soul stuff. Obviously, the Alex Harvey tribute, which is more sort of glam
Mm.
rock, theatre type stuff. Obviously, the Sin Dogs is more sort of industrial, heavy metal based. So I like, and I've played in blues bands, I've played in jazz bands. For me, it's being able to excuse me, it's plying your trade in different styles and learning, especially for soloing and things like that. If you've got that discipline of playing in different styles of music, it definitely brings to whatever style you play. It'll work, and it's building up an apprenticeship and an appreciation for different styles of music.
Yeah, and that's you mentioned industrial metal. That's the band that I just did in Finland. They're called Resolution 13, and they're an industrial metal, and that seems to be picking up a lot over in Europe. I mean, it was a big thing here. I want to say, I mean, it still kind of is, but like in the 90s to early 2000s, I mean, bands like Ministry and Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that were really pounding it out, and it's kind of faded out here, but I don't feel like it's gone. It seems like, yeah, music will always kind of go full circle. You know what I mean? It kind of fades out and then it comes back. So
Absolutely. I mean, what some of my influences from a keyboard perspective, um, nowadays I think it's not a sort of common instrument to be involved in when you're doing sort of heavier material. Back in the day, you had guys like John Lord, Don Airey, Keith Emerson, all these guys. But then later on, all these other metal bands and things like that came onto the scene, and it was like the keyboards had kind of got forgot about for a while. They were maybe on the albums, but you wouldn't see them live. And but then bands like Dream Theater come along and they just blew my mind. Guys like Jordan Rudess and Derek Sherinian, and these are the guys personally that I look up to when I'm playing that sort of stuff. And the musicianship within these bands is just frightening. Sometimes I watch them live and I just go, I think I'll just give it up now and just call it a day. But really, it's inspiring. So it's an unusual instrument for that kind of music. And when you do see a band that's got a keyboard player in it, I think from what people have told me as well, it gives this music flavour. You're not just getting heavy guitar every single song with no dynamics. The keyboards bring an element of the melodies, and you can do a lot with the guitar and the keyboards together. There's a good bit of flavour there. And I think that's one thing that the original lineup of Sin Dogs was starting to lose. I believe that Zal was wanting to go more down a sort of heavier guitar route, and it was just guitar based. And I was finding myself with the newer material that we were writing before the end, I was finding myself with less and less to do. And I'm
mhm.
like, what do you want me to do here? And he's like, you don't have to play anything. I'm like, well, I'm fine for leaving parts out, and if it's not required, it's cool. But after 3 or 4 songs, you're like, well, I just go to the bar, you
Right.
know. So I was like, I'm here to play music, and I want to be involved, even if it's a string part in a chorus or it's a certain part in a bridge where the keyboards come in. But it just became less and less and less, and majority of the people that came to our gigs were saying that the keyboards make such a difference to the guitar. It's not overpowering the guitars. It's a great blend between the two. I used to do double harmonies and things with Zal when he was doing a solo, and I'd come in with a harmony part on a lead synth, and it would almost have that sort of Thin Lizzy sort of sound.
Right.
I really enjoyed doubling up with the guitars. So there's good parts to having a keyboard player in a band. And with the new material, it's still kind of along the same lines of the original album. It's just the singing's going to be different because we've actually got a singer, and that's no disrespect to Zal. I mean, he's primarily a lead guitarist, and I really enjoyed his vocals on the album. It was different. It was a bit angrier, and there was something about it that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got a guy that is actually a singer, and you hear these songs, and you're like, this guy has a sort of Ronnie James Dio type voice. He's got a great range. There's a song that we've just released called "Knock 'Em Dead," and his vocal on it is absolutely superb. And it is very Ronnie James Dio, and I believe that's one of his influences. So it's a different sound vocally, but the music is still very much in the same vein as the first album.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not be a fan of Ronnie James Dio? I mean, the man was a phenomenal singer.
Yeah, yeah. I actually watched a documentary about him quite recently. That was released. I think it was on Amazon, and it actually went right back to his early days at school and at college. And he was playing in jazz bands and swing bands and all that sort of stuff before he became the guy that does that.
Right.
It's incredible the life the guy had, and the vocal that he had. I saw him live a few times. I saw him on his own. My dad took me to a concert when he was playing on his own, and I saw them twice with Heaven and Hell, which was obviously the reincarnation of Black Sabbath.
Right.
I was quite fortunate to see him live. I'm glad I did, because I was just like, for the guy being so small, the voice was just absolutely massive,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that was I actually was fortunate enough to see him with Motorhead, and Iron Maiden. That was a
Wow.
lineup. That was one, just it was an amazing show. Motorhead opened up, Dio played second, Iron Maiden headlined, and I mean, it was you see him come out on stage and he's like, 5 foot nothing, something like that, and just the man's
As soon as you open your mouth,
right. So
incredible.
that's awesome. I'll have to check that out. Is it out on the platforms now?
Not at the moment. It should be out. We're hoping it'll be out in April. But as I say, everything's been recorded, everything's done. We're just basically waiting on the master tracks coming back to us. Because the reason it's been slightly delayed is because a few of us in the band are actually good friends with Chris Glenn, who was a bass player with the sensational Alex Harvey band, and Michael Schenker.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with Chris as well for quite a few years with the outfit, and we asked him if he would do a bass part on one of the songs, just to help with the profile of the band, just to help it get back up and running again, because he's a seasoned player. He's played with Ian Gillan and people like that, so we wanted to try and get him on board, and he's up for doing it. So we're just basically waiting to see whether he's actually going to be able to do it. If not, then obviously our bass player's recorded the part anyway, so we'll just put it on if Chris can't do it. But we're hoping he does. We're hoping he does, because he's a great player. And again, he's one of my heroes, But it won't be too long. I reckon it'll be in a couple of weeks. And as I say, once the song's out, I'll send you them over, Matt. If you do any sort of airplay of any band's materials, I'll send that over to you.
I'm actually looking into that. I'm trying to either find a platform or create my own platform to where you guys as bands, artists, whatever, can go onto my website. And right now I have one for publicists. It says for publicists only, and then it says press releases. They can go in there, upload a press release, put in the information they need to put in, and it shows up on my website. So
It's weird to say that, because we've actually got a press release now as well. We had one with Zal, and if I'd have known you needed that, I would have got Nelson to email it across. But we've actually just updated our press release because of the new lineup. So we actually have got a press release in place. But if I'd have known, I'd have sent that across to you.
yeah, it's funny because, like I said, I'm getting so much. It's not a bad thing. I'm getting so
No,
much, like, just hammered with emails, and I'm like, it's hard because I have a normal job, and my normal job is, start at like 8:30 in the morning, and I go until sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night. That's why I usually set my weekday interviews 8 p.m. Eastern time and after. So, yeah, to comb through all these emails and try to listen to all these songs and everything, it's been kind of tough. That's why I told my wife, I said, I think I need a secretary. Can't pay her, so but it's
Yeah,
this is
it's a day job, and I mean, I find that being a musician. I mean, I've got a daytime job as well, and but I'm quite fortunate in the job that I'm in just now that it lets me work Monday to Friday, and I can spend my Friday nights, Saturday nights, and take on gigs and recordings and all that sort of stuff. So I'm quite lucky that way. There's not many jobs, especially here over this side, that you get jobs that are just Monday to Friday. A lot of these places want you to work till 8 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
um, and silly hours, And for a musician, it's impossible.
Right.
So I'm quite that way, with the hours. So it lets me do what I love doing and what I do better than the day job.
So, I mean, you talk about coming from a musical family, and you say your dad played guitar. What is it that
Yep.
got you into keyboards? I mean, you told me your influences, but what made you sit down and just say, I'm gonna play keyboards?
Yeah. Well, I started playing when I was 4. My mum and dad bought me it was like a toy keyboard. It was about that size, for my 4th Christmas, and there was all these nursery rhymes that were on it, like wee demos. And one day I just started playing the melody to one of the nursery rhymes with my finger, and my parents realised that I was actually playing it. And from there, I play by ear. I don't have a great kind of reading experience. I got to about grade 5, but it got to a point that everything that I was doing when I went to my music teacher, it was going in there. He would be playing classical pieces of music, and there'd be 4 or 5 pages of classical music, but he played it that many times that it was automatically just going into my ear, and I was playing it. So I felt I was kind of cheating in a way. So I decided just to keep playing by ear, and from there I started playing in my local school, playing in my grand's church, to doing my first gig when I was 15. So I just kind of built it up, and just I think it's just something that's always been in me, to be honest. As I say, music was never off in the house when I was younger. Um, but from an early age, I mean, I love the drums as well. I'm actually, a lot of people know that for me, that I'm a frustrated drummer trapped in a keyboard player's body. Any chance I can get behind a drum kit, I'll sit on it and I'll play. Um, but the keyboards have been very good to me, in terms of the experience and the stuff that I've done. I mean, I'm 36 now, so I've been playing for over 25 years now, and I've had great experiences with bands that I've played in, and the musicians that I've worked with. I think I'm quite lucky, with the opportunities that I've had. So yeah, from a young age, from 4 all the way up to now, it's always been the keyboards.
So do you play like just a single keyboard, or do you have multiple ones that you
I,
do time?
I do have multiple. It kind of depends on the gig. For the Sin Dogs, it's generally 2. I've got a Korg Kronos and a Korg M3, and the top board I generally use for like lead, synth leads, choirs, strings, and I use the bottom for the sort of heavier, distorted Dream Theater type sounds and pianos and things like that. If I'm doing kind of smaller gigs, I've got a Nord Electro 6 that I recently just got a couple of months ago, and I absolutely love it. The Hammond sounds on it, especially for blues, the Hammond sounds on that are fantastic. So again, it kind of just depends on what I'm playing. If it's like a wedding, I'll just use one board because it's less to dismantle at the end of a night when you've been playing for 5 hours. Um, Majority of the time, it's the 2 if I'm doing the rocks thing. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously you love the keyboards, and I mean, you seem to have a pretty deep love for music, and I think that's being able to do what you love is, the saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So,
Yeah.
and
But
that's
amazing to me. Music's been amazing to me. It'll never leave me. It's something that I'll always have. It's also a difficult job to have, especially from a relationship point of view. I
mhm.
think relationship. I mean, I'm married 10 years and I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 boys, and um, years ago, before I get married, I was in bands and things, and it was always there was always a conflict with your partner. Is that you gigging again? Is that you rehearsing again? And you're always away and you're doing this and that. So from that standpoint, it can be quite difficult. That can be the negative side of it, because you could be in a relationship you really want to work, but then your music's your career and you're trying to get it off the ground and you're trying to do the best you can. And so it's
Right.
a kind of catch 22. But I'm very fortunate that my wife, she's great with that. You know, she's understanding that this is what I do, and I don't tend to gig every single weekend. So there's times I'll maybe be away 3 or 4 days over a long weekend and then I'm back. But I do make sure that when I am back, that I do spend quality time with our kids and my wife and my family and my friends and stuff. So it's meeting that balance, you know. It's meeting the balance.
I feel you on that one. I drive a truck. I've been doing it for like what 24 years now, but for about 15 years of that, I was over the road. So, it did sacrifice a few relationships.
Yeah,
Finally, I think my wife now, but when we started dating, I was maybe in my last 6 months of it or so. Her and her daughter took a trip with me down to Florida, and we just I kind of decided, what, it's time to be home. Because I
yeah,
mean, it was always something, be gone for 2 weeks, or gone for 3 weeks, or something happens where a load didn't come through or whatever. It was just, it was hard to plan anything. So I
yeah,
I understand what you're saying with the sacrifices of musicianship. So it's,
yeah.
but I mean, it's what I've done for the last 20 something years, I mean, and so it's just who I am, this is more of a, this is something I would love to turn into a business or something that I could make money from. But right now it's more of just a hobby. I just, my appreciation and my love for music is unparalleled. So I mean, it's like this is kind of what keeps my sanity, you know?
Well, I mean, I see music in that respect as well. If there's days I'm feeling like I just can't be bothered, or if I had a bad day at work, or for whatever reason, if I know I've got a rehearsal with the band that night, I just know that I'm going to feel great after 20 minutes of playing my keyboard. It's like you just go into your own wee world. And a lot of people, like especially my wife and things like that, she's like, you could be in a bad mood, but you go into the room and play your keyboard, but you'll come back out a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've went to that place where I know and I love, and I get my sort of zen, if you will. It's just like I'm in a good place now. I can relax. I've made music. I've got to that place where I know that I'm going to come back out and I'm going to be fine again. And it's no matter how I'm feeling, if I'm happy, it makes it even better. If I'm in a good mood and I go to the rehearsal and it's a great rehearsal, you're on that sort of buzz as if you've just done a gig. Or there's times where you're tired and you can't be bothered, but as soon as you set your keyboards up and you start playing the songs with the band, it's like you get a second wind. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm feeling this, okay. So yeah, it definitely helps. Music is a great form of therapy.
That's what I was
It
going to
definitely
say. Very
great for
therapeutic.
anything at all. If you're feeling down, pick up a guitar, pick up a keyboard, or pick up a microphone, whatever you play. Even if you can't sing or you can't play, is get it and learn it, and pick up a wee song, and you'll probably find it'll help. You know, I would encourage music to anybody, regardless of what level they're at. If they've got an interest in it and it's going to make them feel better and it gets them into it, why not?
Well, and that's, I think, a lot of people, as fans and listeners, they use music as therapy also. But
Yeah,
I think what they don't realize is that a lot of the music that is created is from, life situations or trauma that the artists have been through, and that's their way of getting therapy, is
yeah,
by bringing it out through the music.
absolutely.
So I mean, it's I understand it completely. There's days that I'm having a bad day, and I'll throw on my headphones, or you know turn on my speaker or something, and just kind of jam to a few songs that I got a select few that really just kind of settle me down,
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel you. I know exactly what you mean. There's a go to song.
Right,
Or
right.
yeah, yeah. I'm the same. Yeah.
All right, David. Well, we're about out of time, man. I appreciate you rescheduling with me and working with me.
Pleasure.
I appreciate you being on, and you've got my email address. So, whenever that track comes out, shoot it to me. And like I said, I'm going to work on getting this platform together, and, hopefully I can find something where you guys can submit it to that. And, it's, I had one guy ask me, well, what do you plan on doing with it? I don't plan on doing anything with it. I'm not going to try to make money off of your music. I just want, you know, people to hear, go on the website and hear new tracks from artists that I'm working.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that to me that swings both ways. It's going to benefit your channel, and for us, it's going to give us exposure over in the States, which that's what we want to do. We'd love to do it. I mean, even when Zal was in the band, we didn't get that far. We got to Sweden. We done the Sweden Rock Festival in 2019, and that was amazing. We were sharing the stage with Saxon and guys like that. Dream Theater were actually playing the night before, and I was gutted because I never got to see them. We just arrived in the airport and they were on. But that was an experience. I was getting to hang about with such incredible musicians, guys for UFO and guys like that at the bar. And it's like I'm this wee 36-year-old guy from Glasgow, and I'm drinking with these legends that my dad's went to see, and people that love rock music they've idolised them for 40, 50 years, and I'm standing at the bar with these guys.
Right.
I'd love to come to America. I'd love to come to America.
Yeah. Feelings mutual. I'd like to come over there. I mean, I've said
Bring
that.
a jam.
I said that with a few bands that I'm like, man, I'd really love to come over and just like check out your venues and kind of hang out for a concert or whatever, and just you
It
know
can be a bug over here. I mean, I've noticed, especially. I know you're running out of time. This will be a wee quick one. Down in England, they appreciate the music more than they do up in Scotland. I've noticed. I mean, with the Alex Harvey tribute, the Alex Harvey band were a Scottish band from Glasgow, and we can play Glasgow, and some Glasgow gigs they can be half full, it can be absolutely sold out, or there could be 20 people. It really just depends. But we could take that same show down to London, and it's mobbed every time.
yeah.
Or we could go to Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle. We're just back from Newcastle, and the 3 gigs were sold out. So it's a hard push to do gigs and get people back out because of COVID. I think as well has had a big impact on people coming back out and going back into pubs and doing the whole social thing again. I believe that's had a big impact on live music, but bands like us are wanting to keep it going. So we need to just keep pushing and pushing and promoting and trying to get people out their house to go and support live music, because without them, we don't exist.
Right. Yep.
So I
And
have to
it's
keep it. I don't know what it's like over in the States, whether it's back to normal and there's
oh
the
yeah.
venues packed all the time. And see, that's the mentality we need to get over here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we were dying here, man. I mean, there was like I remember when they first opened things back up, they said, look, this is this is needed by the musicians, by the staff, by the roadies, by the fans, everything. Let's follow these rules that the CDC has set out. Let's wear our masks. You got to show your vaccination card before you go into the venue, blah, blah, blah. If everybody cooperates, then we can continue to do this. And, again, people need this. And I honestly feel like, you know, the world's crazy. You got crime and stupid shit going on all the time. And I think that was just one time that you're really seeing everybody come together, everybody follow the rules because they wanted out and they
Yeah.
wanted live music. And it was pretty phenomenal. I mean,
It just shows you how much music affects everybody, not just musicians. Music is in everybody, and it's a universal thing.
yes.
You know, no matter the style of music is in everybody. Everybody's going to like something. So when that's taken away from you, and you can't go to a gig and you can't socialize at a gig, people want that back, and that's what's hopefully going to start happening here again. I mean, it's better than it was, but we still notice it in venues in Scotland where it's like a few years ago this would have been sold out.
Yeah.
And venues are closing because they're losing the business. So a lot of iconic venues up maybe towards Aberdeen and Inverness were like, we played that a few years ago, yeah, but the business have went under because they've not had the support, they've not had the income coming in, and it's sad. And
Yes.
it's pubs as well. Pubs are really struggling as well, just to get people back in the door. And we need to encourage people to go back out and not be afraid. Just like go back and live your life and go and support music and do your normal things that you would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yep. That's how I feel, man. And I mean, like I said, we're pretty much back to normal here. So it's been
yeah,
pretty awesome. We got, we got our big couple of festivals here in Ohio that are happening this year. And, you know, I've done some live shows, live interviews. It's been a little bit, but I think I might have about 3 or 4 this month. And the venues are packed. So
but are we
it's definitely back to normal.
excellent? That's good to hear.
All right, David. Well, I'm gonna let you enjoy your evening, and I do again appreciate your time, and thank you very much for continuing with the Send Dogs.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us, Matt. And once the EP's out, the EP will be called Resonance. And as I say, the songs are done, so it's just a case of getting the master tracks from the engineer. And once it's out, I'll send you an email, and you can let me know if you're wanting them across, and I'll send them across to you.
Okay. All right, brother. Well, let's keep in touch.
Yes, please do. And I like the t-shirt.
Thank you, sir. Later.
All the best.
All right, man.